You're probably wondering how I managed to sneak into H&M's Regent Street Store undercover and go through their pre-loved section without getting caught. I did it by appearing as a normal customer. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name's Katie, and today I'm talking you through H&M's pre-loved section. So I was kind of curious to go and see H&M's pre-loved section in person. It's not necessarily something I would choose to shop. I think just my kind of thoughts about it before seeing it was it wouldn't be that great quality, because H&M isn't that great quality in my mind anyway. But I was curious to see what they were displaying in store and whether it may be something I would consider purchasing if I saw it myself with my own eyes. Immediately when you walked into the store, the signage was pretty good to get there. We headed straight up to the first floor, and then as soon as you got off from the escalator, there was a sign telling you where exactly it was. It was like this little corner of the store, and I had maybe, I want to say like 6 to 8 racks worth of stuff. They were in pretty good quality actually. We were kind of surprised by how good the quality was. We were kind of thinking to ourselves like, oh, is this like actually secondhand, or have they just slapped like secondhand labels on this? Because as far as we could tell, apart from like a few scuffs or like marks in some places, everything on the floor was pretty pristine, to be honest. The one thing that I did notice that was quite telling was the smell. If you've ever been into like a retro store or something similar, you'll know that it smells quite musty, just probably because of how long the clothes are stored and how old they are. And when we were going through the racks, I kind of got that smell again, and I don't know if it's necessarily something I would have noticed if we were in a secondhand store, but the fact that we were in H&M and the rest of the floor did not smell like that at all really made it stand out to me. So I don't know if I were a potential customer who wasn't necessarily worried about the sustainability of the place, but was maybe thinking, should I purchase secondhand, whether I would have, just based on the smell alone. It was pretty off-putting. Some of the other things I noticed, the style of the clothes wasn't very H&M vibe to me. Like it was very like outdoorsy or more retro-y. The other thing I noticed was the lack of size inclusivity. I don't know if it was just the pieces I pulled out, but pretty much everything was in the like, I'd say sizes 8 to maybe 14 range at a push. Mostly it was size 10, my size. So for example, when I was looking through one of the jumpers to try on, I could have had my pick of pretty much any jumper on the rack and it would have fit me almost perfectly. So I don't know what that says about the size inclusivity of the area and whether someone who was a larger size than me would have been able to find anything. Obviously this is a one-day sample of what they had in store when I was there, so I don't know if this is just the thing that happened that day or whether this is a problem that's happening all the time, but it was something I was a bit concerned about. So I actually wanted to go into H&M and see what their pre-loved section was like in person, because H&M pre-loved feels a little bit, it feels like greenwashing to me. H&M are one of the companies that is churning out loads of new styles daily. They're responsible for overproduction, using cheap plastic materials, etc, etc. Basically, you would not call them a sustainable company, but resale in itself is a quite sustainable endeavor. And I wanted to see how a major fast fashion company was handling this, how they sort of advertised it, what they were doing, what it was like in person. So I decided to just go and have a look. And I came away with a lot of questions. So on the website, I mentioned that the whole collection is chosen for the H&M customer. This didn't necessarily come across to me. Like I said, it was like quite outdoorsy, quite retro, didn't really fit the vibe of the rest of the shop floor. I actually saw a Shein top on the racks when I was looking, and I found that quite ironic in a way, I guess. I don't know about you, but in my mind, fast fashion brands like H&M or Zara, I do kind of perceive them to be a better quality than Shein. So I don't know why you'd go to H&M and buy a Shein top. It just didn't quite compute in my mind. Like I said, from looking at the racks, there was actually not that much H&M stuff in their curated selection. It was a lot of other brands, probably what helped the quality of the items go up in that case. For example, there was this really nice jumper that I tried on that I was actually contemplating buying because it was that nice. Trying it on, it was obviously really good quality, and I was kind of astounded about, I guess, the price. So they were selling it for $35.99, but it said 100% pure wool. And when I went online later and looked at some of the other sweaters that this brand in particular was selling, the price ranged from £110 to $240. So being able to buy that for close to £40 instead was a major surprise. And in comparison, I kind of looked at one of the sweaters that H&M was selling on their shop floor for around a similar price. The fibres they were using was just so much worse quality, so it was like recycled polyester. And to have that at the same price point as something they were selling only one floor up, secondhand 100% wool, was a bit weird. I guess. We were kind of surprised by the quality of the clothing there. Actually, a lot of the pieces were really good quality. There was little to no scuffing or marks, or if it was, that was kind of the only defects that I saw. Then I went back and read the article and realized that this was a really curated collection of clothing that they'd put out on the store. So obviously they were only going to pick the best of the best. It did kind of leave you with some questions about where they were sourcing these clothes from. I came back and did some research on this and found out it's Flamingo's Vintage Kilo, which is a company that works in Europe and the United States sourcing secondhand clothing. Like, my initial thought was, okay, they're using their resale platform that they've had in place in stores for 10 years, those take back schemes they have where you get a voucher, which is another controversial whole thing that we're not going to go into. But it turns out they're not using this built-in resale feature that would be perfect for this. It kind of begged the question, why aren't they sourcing from their own recycling scheme? It seems like the perfect idea. I couldn't find an answer. I could guess that it may be easier to source from a third party because they can do some of the curation for you. The one thing I could think of is there's been scandal around their take back scheme, along with a lot of other fast fashion brands doing the same thing, but it still didn't kind of answer all of my questions. H&M themselves works with a recycling partner for their take back schemes called Resmondis. The clothes that are dropped off in H&M stores are either marked as rewear, reuse, or recycle, but it kind of begs the question, why are they not using this ingrained system for their own stores? It doesn't make any sense unless they're not sorting through these clothes. Why would you pay a third party when you're literally being handed clothes that you could then resell? It kind of really boggled me. Let's talk about the placement of the section in the store, because like I mentioned, it was right by the self-checkouts and also the changing rooms on the first floor. So a pretty prominent location, and actually there was quite a lot of signage as you came into the store. So finding it wasn't hard, but it was tucked up in the first floor at the back. I did kind of question to myself, like, if I wasn't here specifically for this resale section, would I naturally have found it? Would I have wandered through the store, like through to the back of the store, up the escalator, and then back towards the front to find the resale section on my own? I don't know. I don't know if I would have been fatigued by that point, whether I've been like distracted by something else I saw on the shop floor. They really made you walk through everything else in order to find the sustainable option. And obviously I get that that's good business practices and everything, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's putting sustainability first. It wasn't great, but it was okay. The signage was good. The actual placement wasn't that good. My last kind of observation about the area was how quiet it was. And I guess this kind of goes to show about the location of it too. So we were there maybe for about half an hour, being watched over by the attendant at the changing rooms, who was kind of glancing at us but didn't say anything. And yeah, we were looking through the racks. I went to try something on. And during all this time, there was maybe, I want to say like 8 people that were also at the racks during this time looking through the pre-loved section. Obviously there was a lot of people filtering past to use the self-checkout and the changing rooms, but actually looking through the racks for this stuff, there wasn't a lot of people. So I think that in itself proves that their location was not good, and the concept itself maybe isn't being taken seriously enough. Or maybe it's just, you know, a mindset thing. People aren't going to H&M to buy resold stuff. They're going to buy firsthand because their prices are so cheap that why would you not? That £35 jumper, although a lot better quality from the resale brand, was the same price as the jumper they were selling on their first floor immediately when you walked in the doors. So why would a average consumer hunt towards the pre-loved section and hunt through the racks and try to find a jumper when you're being served up a lower quality one for the same price immediately? I think overall the idea is good. H&M doing something like this, you can't ignore it because they are a big brand. They've done it in their Regent Street store, but the execution of it leaves stuff to be desired, I think. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's coming from a sustainable fashion influencer. Would I ever have been happy with it? Probably not. If you go, let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you buy anything or if you're tempted to buy anything. But personally, I think it's a bit of a flop.